Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The massive object appeared in Earth's space without warning. There was no distortion ripple, no detectable warp signature, no gradual emergence from faster-than-light travel. One moment, the orbital sensors showed empty void beyond the moon's orbit. The next, a shadow eclipsed the stars. The alien ship was colossal, nearly 10 times larger than the largest human-built warship. Its hull was forged from an unknown alloy that shimmered between shades of deep violet and cold silver, as if the metal itself refused to settle into a single form. Light bent strangely across its surface, scattering starlight in subtle, unsettling patterns. Across Earth's orbital defense network, alarms screamed to life. Red indicators flared across tactical displays. Missile platforms pivoted, energy capacitors charged. Civilian traffic was ordered into emergency evacuation corridors within seconds. Every nation, every military command center, every intelligence agency received the same message at the same time. Unidentified megastructure detected. Possible hostile contact. On the command deck of Earth's primary orbital defense station, Admiral Sarah Chun stood motionless before the main display. Her hands were clasped behind her back, her posture straight and controlled, but her eyes missed nothing. The alien vessel filled nearly the entire screen, dwarfing the familiar shapes of human satellites and patrol ships that hovered around it like insects near a storm cloud. "Any response to our hails?" she asked calmly. Lieutenant Jackson didn't look away from his console. His fingers moved rapidly as he rerouted communication frequencies, pushing messages across every known band. "No response, Admiral. We've transmitted in all standard diplomatic protocols, first contact formats, and emergency civilian codes." Nothing. Chun nodded once. "Keep trying. I want a full spectrum scan. Weapons, propulsion, shielding, everything." The scan data streamed in, and the silence on the command deck deepened. The readings made no sense. Power output estimates exceeded anything humanity had ever measured. The ship's internal energy signatures fluctuated in patterns that didn't match known reactors or antimatter containment fields. Even more disturbing, the hull seemed to absorb or redirect active sensor pings, returning distorted or incomplete data. "It's like it doesn't want us to see it," Jackson muttered. Admiral Chun didn't respond. She already knew that was exactly the point. For 2 hours, the alien vessel remained silent. It didn't move. It didn't deploy weapons. It simply existed, a silent, overwhelming presence hanging in the void above humanity's cradle. News networks across Earth broadcast the image non-stop. Social media flooded with speculation, fear, and disbelief. Religious leaders issued statements. Markets plunged. Governments quietly authorized contingency plans that had never been meant to leave classified archives. Then, without warning, the alien ship responded. A holographic projection flared to life in the center of the command deck. Light coalesced into a tall, slender figure with pale blue skin and elongated limbs. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked slowly as the being surveyed the human officers before it. When it spoke, its voice was smooth, measured, and unmistakably condescending. "I am Ambassador Veltar," it said, "representative of the great Zephyrian Empire." The tone was not hostile. That made it worse. "You primitive beings will listen carefully to what I say." Several officers stiffened, but Admiral Chun stepped forward, her expression unchanged. "This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Force," she replied evenly. "You are in human-controlled space without authorization. State your purpose." For a moment, Veltar's eyes narrowed. Then he emitted a sound that might have been laughter. "Your space?" the ambassador said. "Little mammal, you do not understand your place in the galaxy." Behind him, the holographic background shifted, briefly revealing vast star systems, enormous fleets, and worlds encased in artificial structures. "The Zephyrian Empire has ruled among the stars for over 1,000 of your years," Veltar continued. 47 species exist under our protection. their civilizations preserved, their conflicts resolved, their futures secured. Chun met his gaze without flinching. And what does that have to do with Earth? Veltar's lips curved slightly. We are offering humanity the same gift. The silence on the command deck was absolute. What kind of gift? Chun asked, though she already knew the answer. Surrender, Veltar said. The word landed like a physical blow. Complete and immediate compliance, the ambassador continued. You will relinquish control of your interstellar territories. You will provide 80% of your planetary and off-world resources to the Empire. Your species will be reclassified as third-tier citizens. His eyes gleamed faintly. In return, we will permit humanity to continue existing. Chun felt her jaw tighten. Around her, officers exchanged dark glances. And if we refuse? She asked. Veltar's expression did not change. Then your species will be cleansed from the galaxy, he said simply. Your worlds will be purified and repurposed for superior life forms. The ambassador gestured dismissively. We have studied your technology. You still rely on chemical rockets to reach orbit. Your ships are constructed from primitive alloys. Your weapons fire solid projectiles and inefficient energy beams. A series of tactical projections appeared beside him, displaying Zephyrian warships firing brilliant arcs of plasma across vast distances. We possess plasma lances capable of melting your vessels from thousands of kilometers away, Veltar said. Our quantum shields can stop anything you might throw at us. He leaned forward slightly. You are not special. 47 species believed they were. All 47 learned the price of defiance. Admiral Chun's voice remained steady. You seem very confident. We are confident, Veltar replied, because confidence is earned through victory. The hologram flickered, then vanished. Moments later, far from Earth, Emperor Zulk reclined upon his crystal throne. The vast chamber around him was lined with trophies, artifacts, weapons, and the preserved remains of species that had once dared to resist the Zephyrian Empire. The humans are considering our offer, Ambassador Veltar reported via hologram. Zulk's lips curled into a faint smile. Of course they are. They requested 30 days to consult their government. The Emperor laughed softly. 30 days, he repeated. How generous of them to believe they have a choice. Shall I reduce the time limit, Your Magnificence? Veltar asked. No, Zulk replied after a moment. Let them have it. Time will only deepen their fear. He gestured, and a tactical display appeared before him. It showed Earth's defenses, orbital platforms, missile arrays, and a modest fleet of warships. Threat level? The Emperor asked. Negligible, the system replied. Estimated conquest time, 72 hours. Zulk rose from his throne and walked toward a wall adorned with skulls. Add another space, he said quietly. Soon. Back on Earth, Admiral Chun turned from the empty space where the hologram had been. They think we're children, Lieutenant Jackson said bitterly. Chun's gaze hardened. Then let them keep thinking that. Outside the station, the alien ship remained motionless, confident, arrogant, and utterly unaware that it had just made the most dangerous mistake in its empire's long history. The emergency session of the Terran Defense Council convened less than an hour after the Zephyrian ultimatum ended. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a reinforced chamber designed to survive nuclear impact and orbital bombardment, humanity's leaders gathered around a circular table of brushed steel. The room was utilitarian, no banners, no symbols of grandeur, just hard light, hardened walls, and people who understood exactly how close their species stood to extinction. Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the head of the table. We have 30 days, she said, her voice cutting cleanly through the low murmur of anxious conversation. That's the window the Zephyrian Empire has given us before they decide whether we exist or not. President Harrison leaned forward, his expression tight. Let's not pretend, he said. Those aren't negotiations. They're terms. Defense Minister Caldwell nodded grimly. 80% of our resources, third-class citizenship, permanent occupation. And if we refuse, Harrison added, They wipe us out. Silence settled over the chamber. For a long moment, no one spoke. Can we win? Someone finally asked. All eyes turned back to Admiral Chun. She didn't answer immediately. Not with what they can see, she said at last. The room stirred. What does that mean? The president asked. It means, Chun replied evenly, they've made the same mistake everyone makes the first time they encounter humanity. She activated the central holoprojector. The familiar image of the Zephyrian flagship appeared, along with overlays of their fleet formations, weapon systems, and shield profiles. They scanned our visible defenses, Chun continued. They cataloged our orbital platforms, our home fleet, our ship designs. They saw chemical rockets, metal hulls, and kinetic weapons. And they assumed that was the sum total of our capabilities. She looked around the table. They assumed we show everything we have. A new image replaced the display. Star charts filled the air, dozens of them, zooming outward from Earth into the outer solar system and beyond. Asteroid belts, Trojan clusters, dark regions between stars that most civilizations ignored. Red markers began appearing across the map, one by one. What you're looking at, Chun said, are facilities the Zephyrians didn't find. President Harrison's eyes widened. Those are shipyards, Chun confirmed. Hidden construction arrays. Some disguised as natural asteroids. Others built inside hollowed rock and masked with sensor-bending materials. Dr. Marcus Webb leaned forward, fingers steepled. We started building them 15 years ago, he said. After first contact with the Centauri traders, murmurs rippled through the chamber. When we realized what the galaxy was really like, Webb continued, when we learned that peaceful species don't last long out there. The display shifted again. Numbers appeared. Ship silhouettes, lots of them. How many? The president asked quietly. 3,000, Chun said. The room fell silent. 3,000 warships, she continued. Built with technology the Zephyrian Empire has never seen. Designed to counter everything their doctrine relies on. Defense Minister Caldwell exhaled slowly. They think we have 200 ships. And they think those ships fight the way everyone else fights, Chun said. Large formations, static defenses, predictable responses. She shut down the display. We don't. Far from Earth, Emperor Zolk reviewed the latest intelligence reports with casual disinterest. The humans had gone quiet. No new transmissions, no sudden military movements, no aggressive posturing. They are afraid, General Vextar said confidently. They always are at this stage. Zolk nodded. They will debate. They will argue. They will cling to hope. And then, at the end, they will submit. A holographic assessment floated before them. Human fleet strength, 200 vessels. Technology level, primitive. Strategic doctrine, defensive. Threat probability, negligible. Prepare one battle fleet, Zolk said. If they refuse, we end this quickly. Back on Earth, the 30-day countdown had already begun. The public was told only fragments of the truth. Governments spoke of diplomatic tensions and ongoing negotiations. Markets were stabilized. Panic was managed. Behind the scenes, humanity moved. Hidden shipyards across human space surged with activity. Crews were awakened from long-term standby. Systems that had never been tested outside simulations powered up for the first time. Inside one hollowed asteroid in the outer belt, Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of a ship that officially did not exist. The UHCS Indomitable. From the outside, it looked crude. An angular hull, visible weapon ports, no elegant curves or decorative plating. Exactly the kind of ship Zephyrian scouts would dismiss. Inside, it was something else entirely. Scout activity? Chun asked. Commander Torres checked his station. Zephyrian recon vessels are moving through the system, Admiral. They're cataloging our decoy platforms exactly as predicted. Good, Chun replied. Let them see what they expect to see. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the tactical display. They're thorough, she said, but they're not looking for hidden facilities. They don't think they need to, Chun said calmly. They already believe they've won. Dr. Webb appeared on the main screen from his laboratory, where unfamiliar devices hummed with restrained power. Phase drive tests are complete, he reported. We can reposition a full battleship instantly within 50,000 kilometers. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Instantly? No transition window. No detectable energy spike until after arrival, Webb confirmed. The Zephyrians have never encountered anything like it. And weapons? Chun asked. Webb smiled thinly. The kinetic penetrators are exceeding projections. Tungsten rods accelerated to 97% of light speed. The bridge was silent. Their quantum shields are optimized to stop energy weapons, Webb continued, and slow-moving projectiles. They've never faced relativistic kill vehicles. Chun nodded once. In plasma, we took their leaked designs and improved them, Webb said. Our plasma lances burn 3 times hotter. Combined with our targeting systems, we can punch through Imperial armor at maximum range. 30 days passed faster than anyone on Earth expected. When the final hour arrived, Admiral Chun stood before the communications array once more. Ambassador Veltar appeared almost immediately, his 4 eyes gleaming with confidence. "Have you chosen wisely, little mammals?" he asked. Chun's expression was calm, controlled. "We have," she said. "And?" Her answer was a single word. "No." For the first time, Veltar's composure cracked. "You refuse?" he demanded. "Do you understand what this means?" "It means," Chun replied evenly, "you should have done your homework better." The transmission ended. Veltar stared at the blank display, then activated his emergency beacon. The Empire would come, and humanity was ready. The Zephyrian scout vessels entered the outer reaches of Earth's solar system with the quiet confidence of hunters who believed the terrain already mapped. They were sleek, needle-shaped craft, fast, agile, and bristling with sensor arrays refined through centuries of conquest. Their mission was routine by Imperial standards: catalog defenses, confirm threat levels, and relay targeting data ahead of the incoming battle fleet. Captain Dexar Val commanded the lead scout from a bridge bathed in cool blue light. He watched the sensor feeds scroll past with growing boredom. "Orbital platform scan complete," his sensor officer reported. "Configuration matches previous readings. Chemical missiles, first-generation plasma cannons. No quantum enhancement." Dexter clicked his mandibles in mild annoyance. "Again with the primitives." Another officer leaned closer to his display. "Human fleet detected. 212 vessels. Largest hull length approximately 800 meters. Construction materials appear to be titanium steel alloy. No energy shielding detected." "Any sign of phase manipulation?" Dexter asked. "None, Captain. No psionic integration. No spatial distortion signatures. Their faster-than-light capability is crude." Dexar leaned back in his command seat. "Threat assessment? 0, the officer replied without hesitation. Dexter allowed himself a thin smile. "Transmit confirmation to Imperial Command. The mammals are exactly what they appear to be." Far beyond the scouts' detection range, Admiral Sarah Chun watched them work. The UHCS Indomitable rested inside a hollowed asteroid, its exterior coated in materials designed to bend sensor beams around it, like light around a gravity well. From the outside, it was indistinguishable from inert rock drifting through the void. Inside, the bridge was quiet and focused. "They're cataloging our decoys," Commander Torres reported. "Every missile platform, every outdated weapons array." "Good," Chun said. "Let them be thorough." Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the projected scan patterns. "They're not searching the shadows. They don't believe anything important would be hidden there," Chun replied. "Not by a species they've already dismissed." On a secondary display, dozens of hidden shipyards pulsed with restrained energy as crews prepared for the opening move. Thousands of ships waited in silence, their systems dormant, their crews steady and alert. Dr. Marcus Webb appeared on the main screen from his laboratory. "All systems green," he said. "Phase drives synchronized, kinetic penetrators locked and ready." Chun nodded. Then we wait. The first strike came without warning. Captain Dexar was mid-report when the tactical officer froze. "Captain," the officer said slowly, "I'm detecting something." Dexar straightened. "Define something." "There's a localized spatial anomaly approximately 2,000 kilometers off our rear sensor arc." Before Dexar could respond, space itself seemed to tear. 3 human destroyers materialized from nothingness, their arrival marked not by energy flares or distortion waves, but by sudden, undeniable presence. Their weapons were already firing. "Tactical alert," Dexar shouted. "Shields." The warning came too late. 6 tungsten rods, accelerated to 97% of light speed, crossed the distance in fractions of a second. The Zephyrian cruiser, Eternal Might, never had time to adapt its shields. The rods punched through quantum barriers as if they were mist. They tore through layered armor plating, through internal bulkheads, through the ship's core. The cruiser detonated in a silent, blinding flash. "What just happened?" Dexter roared. The human ships vanished, space folded inward, swallowing them whole. They were gone. Alarms screamed across the scout formation. "Energy spike detected," an officer shouted. "Multiple vectors, no visual confirmation." Dexar's heart hammered. "Where are they?" I don't know," the sensor officer stammered. "They're everywhere and nowhere. Our targeting systems can't lock." On the bridge of the human destroyer, UHCS Phantom, Captain Jake Thompson allowed himself a single, tight smile. "Next target," he said calmly, "Grid 47. The Phantom reappeared behind another Imperial formation, its phase drive completing the jump instantly. Weapons fired. 6 more rods streaked through space. The Zephyrian heavy cruiser, Destiny's Blade, tried to rotate its shields. It didn't matter. The first rod destroyed the engines. The second obliterated the reactor. The rest carved through the hull with surgical precision. "Jump," Thompson ordered. The Phantom vanished again. On the Indomitable, Admiral Chun watched the Imperial sensor feeds erupt into chaos. "They're panicking," Torres said. "They should," Chun replied. "They've just realized this isn't a reconnaissance mission anymore." Aboard a Zephyrian escort vessel on the fringes of the formation, Junior Tactical Officer Carroll watched his display in disbelief. Another ship had disappeared. Not destroyed, not disabled, just gone. "Sir," he whispered, "I can't track them. They appear, strike, and vanish before our systems can respond." His commanding officer snapped at him. "Then adjust the sensors." "We can't," Carroll said, his voice shaking. "There's nothing to adjust to. It's like they're stepping outside reality." The escort shuddered as another explosion lit the void nearby. Carroll felt something cold settle into his chest. Fear. This wasn't combat. This was predation. Back in the Zephyrian capital, Emperor Zulk studied the incoming reports with a furrowed brow. "Losses?" he asked. "Several vessels destroyed," General Vextar admitted. "The humans are employing unconventional tactics." Zulk's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "They appear to be using instantaneous spatial relocation," Vextar said carefully. "And their weapons, they penetrate quantum shields." "That's impossible," Zulk snapped. "Their technology was primitive." "So we believed," Vextar replied. Zulk turned away, his gaze lingering on the wall of trophies. "Deploy the battle fleet," he said. "End this farce." Back in human space, Admiral Chun issued the next order. "All units," she said calmly, "maintain hit and fade operations. No sustained engagements. Make them chase shadows." Across the system, human ships moved like wolves through darkness. They struck isolated targets, supply vessels, command relays. They left no patterns, no formations. Imperial commanders fired at ghosts. Within 30 minutes, the Zephyrian scouts had lost nearly 50 ships. Human losses, 0. On the bridge of a battered Imperial cruiser, Carroll stared at the empty void where another vessel had just vanished. "They're not defending," he whispered. His commander looked at him sharply. "What?" "They're hunting us." Carroll swallowed hard. "Sir, I don't think we're the predators anymore. And in the hidden depths of human space, Admiral Chun allowed herself the faintest smile. The Empire had come expecting prey. Instead, it had wandered into the territory of something far more dangerous. The Zephyrian battle fleet entered human space in perfect formation. 800 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel as one. Heavy dreadnoughts at the center, cruisers and destroyers arranged in disciplined layers, support vessels protected deep within the formation. It was a configuration refined over centuries, optimized for overwhelming force and rapid annihilation. Admiral Kexmon stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominion's Edge, surveying the tactical display with practiced confidence. "Scan for human defenses," he ordered. Sensor data flooded in almost immediately. "Orbital platforms detected at expected coordinates," the tactical officer reported. "Primitive missile arrays and low-yield energy weapons." "As predicted," Kexmon said. "And their fleet?" A pause. "Approximately 50 human vessels detected across the system, Admiral. They're scattered." "Scattered?" Kexmon repeated. "Yes, sir. No recognizable defensive formation. Most appear to be moving away from our position." Kexmon snorted. "They're running." A ripple of agreement passed through the bridge crew. "Begin pursuit," he commanded. "We will hunt them down one by one." As the Imperial formation advanced deeper into the solar system, the first human transmission cut through all frequencies simultaneously. "Imperial Fleet," Admiral Sarah Chun's voice said calmly. "This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Defense Force." Kexmon stiffened. "Locate the source." "We can't, sir," the communications officer replied, confusion evident. "The signal appears to be originating from everywhere." Chun's voice continued, unhurried. "You should have taken the hint when we said no. Now you're about to learn why humanity doesn't kneel." Before Kexmon could respond, space ruptured behind his rear guard. 3 human destroyers materialized in perfect synchronization, their weapons firing the instant they appeared. 6 relativistic penetrators slammed into an Imperial cruiser before its shields could even rotate. The ship vanished in a flash of expanding debris. "What in the Emperor's name?" Kexmon began. The human ships disappeared again. Alarms erupted across the bridge. "Multiple energy spikes detected," the sensor officer shouted. "Contacts appearing and vanishing throughout the system." Kexmon clenched his fists. "Form defensive clusters. Tighten the formation." As the Imperial fleet regrouped, human warships struck again, this time from the flanks. Commander Jake Thompson's destroyer squadron appeared behind a group of escort vessels, firing a precise spread of kinetic penetrators. 3 ships died before the escorts could return fire. The humans vanished. Moments later, another attack erupted near the supply vessels. Then another, and another. Imperial commanders fired at empty space. Targeting systems failed to lock. Sensor operators shouted conflicting reports. No 2 attacks came from the same direction. On the bridge of the UHCS Indomitable, Captain Elena Rodriguez observed the chaos with clinical focus. "They're clustering up," she reported to Admiral Chun. "Just like we predicted." "Good," Chun replied. "They think concentration equals safety." Rodriguez's lips curved slightly. "Shall we disabuse them of that notion?" Chun nodded. Phase 2. Across the system, 12 human battleships activated their phase drives simultaneously. They appeared in a perfect sphere around the densest Imperial cluster. Their arrival so precise it seemed rehearsed down to the microsecond. "Fire!" Rodriguez commanded. Hybrid plasma kinetic cannons unleashed their payloads. Superheated tungsten slugs, wrapped in destabilizing plasma fields, struck Imperial shields from every direction at once. The quantum barriers flared, then collapsed. 7 Imperial heavy cruisers and 2 battleships were torn apart in seconds. "Impossible," Kexmon whispered as he watched his tactical display disintegrate. "Their weapons can't do this." "Sir," the science officer said, his voice shaking, "these aren't standard kinetic weapons. They're relativistic projectiles enhanced with plasma fields. Our shields weren't designed for this." "Concentrate fire," Kexmon shouted. Destroy those battleships. Imperial weapons converged on the human vessels. They found nothing. The battleships vanished, slipping out of existence before the first shots reached their former positions. Kexman felt a chill creep into his spine. This wasn't warfare as the Empire understood it. There was no front line, no decisive engagement. The humans weren't trying to overpower his fleet, they were dismantling it. Aboard an Imperial cruiser, struggling to maintain formation, Junior Officer Carroll clung to his station as another explosion rocked nearby space. "We've lost 37 ships," he reported. No confirmed human casualties. His commander stared at the display in disbelief. "That's not possible." "They appear," Carroll said quietly. "They strike. They vanish. Sir, we can't fight something we can't see." Across the system, Admiral Chun issued another order. "All Wolfpack squadrons," she said, her voice calm and precise. "Begin harassment operations. I want them confused. I want them afraid." Human destroyers and frigates emerged throughout the Imperial formation like phantoms. They fired brief, devastating volleys, destroying escorts, transports, and command relays, then vanished again. The psychological impact was immediate. Imperial ships fired wildly at sensor echoes. Commanders reported attacks their instruments couldn't confirm. Formation discipline broke down as captains tried to protect their own vessels rather than maintain cohesion. "Sir," Kexman's tactical officer said, pale and sweating, "we've lost 137 vessels." "And the humans?" Kexman demanded. "No confirmed kills," the officer replied. "We haven't held target lock on any human ship long enough to deliver effective fire." Kexman, for the first time in his long career, fear took hold. But far from Imperial space, Emperor Zulk was already watching the battle unfold. "This shouldn't be happening," he said softly, studying the data streaming before him. "They're not fighting like prey." General Vextar hesitated. "Your Magnificence, they're not fighting like anyone we've faced before." Zulk's gaze darkened. "Then we will remind them what true power looks like." He turned sharply. "Assemble the Grand Armada, every available ship." Back in human space, Admiral Chun watched the Imperial fleet reel under sustained pressure. "They're pulling back," Torres reported. "Let them," Chun said. "This was never about destroying them." Rodriguez glanced at her. "Then what was it about?" Chun's eyes were cold and focused. "About teaching them," she said, "and making sure they bring everything they have next time." Because the first collapse was only the beginning, and the Empire still didn't understand what it had provoked. The Grand Armada arrived like a wall of night. 2,000 Imperial warships tore out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, their emergence marked by overlapping shock waves of distorted space. From a distance, the formation looked less like a fleet and more like a moving continent, layers of metal and energy stretching across millions of kilometers. At its center drifted the Celestial Dominion, the Emperor's flagship. 5 kilometers long, encased in armor forged from the densest matter the Empire could engineer, the vessel radiated power. Planet-cracking weapons rested dormant along its flanks. Shield generators pulsed with steady, confident rhythm. For 1,000 years, the Celestial Dominion had never been breached. Not once. Emperor Zulk stood on its command bridge, hands clasped behind his back, surveying the site with satisfaction. "No species has ever faced such power and survived," he said quietly. "Human vessels detected throughout the system," reported a sensor officer. "They appear scattered and disorganized." Zulk allowed himself a thin smile. "As expected, they cannot win a direct engagement." Across the system, Admiral Sarah Chun watched the Armada's arrival from her hidden command center beneath the surface of Luna. "They brought everything," Commander Torres said, awe creeping into his voice. "Yes," Chun replied, "which means we only have to end this once." The human fleet did not form up. There was no grand defensive line, no wall of battleships between Earth and the invaders. Instead, human ships moved independently, drifting through space in patterns that appeared random to Imperial sensors. On the Celestial Dominion's bridge, an officer frowned at his display. Your Magnificence, the humans are not responding. No formation, no coordinated advance, Zulk snorted. They know better than to face us head-on. He raised his hand. Maintain course. Advance toward Earth. The first human attack came as a disappointment. Commander Jake Thompson's destroyer squadron appeared briefly on the Armada's left flank and fired a single volley. 6 relativistic penetrators into empty space. Then they vanished. Another squadron appeared above the formation, firing plasma-enhanced rounds at nothing at all. Then another appeared below, launching a spread of unfamiliar munitions before disappearing again. On the Celestial Dominion, laughter rippled across the bridge. They're panicking, an officer said. They're wasting ammunition. Zulk smiled. The prey is desperate. Far away, Admiral Chun watched a countdown timer tick steadily downward. 30 seconds to convergence, she said calmly. The human ships did not fire again. They retreated. To Imperial observers, it looked like a failure. A disorganized, ineffective attempt at harassment that had accomplished nothing. Zulk's smile widened. Continue the advance. 20 seconds, Chun murmured. General Vexstar leaned closer to his emperor. Your Magnificence, I'm detecting anomalous energy readings ahead of our formation. Zulk frowned. Define anomalous. Localized gravitational distortions, Vexstar replied. And residual plasma ionization. 10 seconds, Chun said. Zulk's eyes narrowed. All ships increase sensor resolution. 5 seconds. The Grand Armada surged forward and flew directly into the future. The weapons the humans had fired were never meant for where the Imperial fleet was. They were aimed at where it would be. Relativistic kill vehicles arrived first. Tungsten rods, moving at near light speed, slammed into Imperial hulls before warning systems could even register impact. Quantum shields flared and failed. Armor designed to withstand planet-scale bombardment folded like thin foil. Plasma-enhanced rounds followed, destabilizing molecular bonds and turning shield generators into cascading failures. Then the Singularity torpedoes detonated. Artificial gravity wells bloomed into existence across the Armada's forward arc. Entire cruisers were dragged screaming out of formation, colliding with allies. Battleships twisted as internal structures collapsed under impossible forces. In the first 10 seconds, over 300 Imperial ships died. On the Celestial Dominion's bridge, chaos erupted. What is happening? Zulk demanded as alarm screamed. They predicted our position, Vexstar shouted over the din. They calculated our trajectory in advance. That's impossible, Zulk roared. No species has that level of precision. But the data did not lie. The Armada's perfect formation was gone, shattered into a tumbling mass of damaged ships, overlapping distress signals, and drifting debris. Phase 2, Admiral Chun said softly. Human warships appeared everywhere. This time they did not vanish after firing. Wolfpack squadrons materialized inside the broken Imperial formation, their new adaptive armor glowing faintly as enemy fire struck them. Commander Thompson led his destroyers straight toward the Celestial Dominion. Imperial plasma lances slammed into the Phantom, bathing it in searing energy. The ship did not explode. Instead, its armor flared as the energy was absorbed, rerouted, and converted. Reactive shielding holding, Thompson reported calmly. Redirecting charge. His weapons fired. The absorbed energy surged back out as a concentrated kinetic plasma burst, tearing through an Imperial escort in a single, devastating strike. On the Celestial Dominion, an officer stared at the display in disbelief. They're absorbing our fire, he whispered, and using it against us. Zulk felt something twist in his chest. Fear. Captain Elena Rodriguez did not hesitate. Her battleship, the Indomitable, appeared alongside the Celestial Dominion at point-blank range. Target their primary hull, she ordered. All Singularity torpedoes. The massive Imperial flagship shuddered as artificial gravity wells tore into its armor. Hull plating buckled. Internal compartments collapsed. shield generators overloaded one after another. "For the first time," an officer shouted, "their shields are failing." Zulk stumbled as the deck lurched beneath his feet. "This cannot be happening," he breathed. Admiral Chun's voice cut through the chaos on an open channel. "Emperor Zulk," she said calmly, "you're no longer fighting primitives." Human ships closed in from every direction. The Grand Armada, once the greatest military force in galactic history, was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that refused to fight on familiar terms. "All ships," Zulk ordered hoarsely, "retreat, full retreat." But retreat offered no sanctuary. Human squadrons pressed the attack just long enough to ensure the message was clear, then pulled back, allowing the remnants of the Armada to flee. When the battle ended, space was littered with wreckage. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Torres reviewed the final numbers. Imperial losses: 843 vessels destroyed, 412 heavily damaged. "And ours?" Chun asked. 17 ships with minor hull damage, no losses." Chun closed her eyes briefly. The Empire had come to end humanity in a single, overwhelming blow. Instead, it had suffered the greatest defeat in its history, and the galaxy would never forget it. The war did not end with a final explosion. It ended with silence. Across Earth's solar system, the remnants of the Imperial Grand Armada limped away, engines burning unevenly, formations shattered beyond recognition. No pursuit followed. No victory parade formed. Human ships simply held position, watching until the last Zephyrian vessel vanished into faster-than-light transit. On the bridge of the UHCS Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chun stood before the observation window, her hands resting lightly on the rail. "Damage report," she said. Commander Torres consulted his display. 17 ships with minor hull breaches. 31 require weapon system repairs. No human vessels lost. A quiet exhale moved through the bridge. "And the Empire?" Chun asked. 843 ships destroyed, 412 disabled or heavily damaged, Torres replied. "The Emperor's flagship is barely operational." Chun nodded, but her expression remained distant. The numbers told only part of the story. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been forced to retreat. Word spread faster than any fleet ever could. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Imperial banners for generations watched the reports in disbelief. The Empire, invincible, eternal, unquestionable, had bled. And not just bled, but broken. Within days, uprisings ignited. Tribute convoys stopped arriving. Imperial administrators were expelled. Entire systems declared independence, emboldened by the knowledge that the Empire could be challenged and beaten. In his shattered throne room, Emperor Zulk stared at the tactical reports with hollow eyes. The skulls lining the walls, trophies of past victories, now felt less like symbols of power and more like omens. "The humans are striking Imperial infrastructure," General Vextar reported. "Naval yards, command relays, logistics hubs. They are not attacking civilian worlds," Zulk said quietly. "No, Your Magnificence." Zulk's jaw tightened. "They are not conquering. They are demonstrating," Vextar said. 2 weeks later, the demonstration arrived at Zephos Prime. Human warships materialized in orbit without warning. Dozens at first, then hundreds, forming a disciplined, unmistakable presence around the Imperial homeworld. Defense platforms powered up, but no shots were fired. A single transmission cut through every Imperial channel. Admiral Chun appeared on the main display, standing calmly on her bridge. "Emperor Zulk," she said, "it's time we discussed terms." Zulk stared at the image, disbelief giving way to a grim understanding. "You are in my home system." "Yes," Chun replied evenly, "the same way we've been everywhere else." "How?" Zulk demanded. "Human innovation," Chun said, "combined with human determination." Behind her, the tactical display showed human fleets positioned around major Imperial systems. Precise, deliberate, unstoppable. "You believed you were dealing with another primitive species that would submit," Chun continued. "Instead, you encountered predators who learned to survive by never appearing threatening. Zulk's voice dropped to a whisper. Your terms. Complete withdrawal from all human space, Chun said. Recognition of human sovereignty. Reparations for your attempted extinction of our species. And a binding guarantee that the Zephyrian Empire will never threaten Earth or its colonies again. And if I refuse? Zulk asked, though he already knew the answer. Chun gestured subtly. Then you will learn something about humans that even now you do not fully understand. She met his gaze. When Earth's children go to war, we don't fight for victory alone. We fight to ensure the threat never rises again. The Emperor looked around his throne room, at the relics of conquered worlds, at the symbols of a legacy built on fear. For the first time in his long reign, he understood what it felt like to be cornered. I accept your terms, he said softly. The withdrawal began within 48 hours. Imperial fleets retreated from human space. Garrisons abandoned occupied systems. Borders that had existed for centuries dissolved overnight. Across the galaxy, messages of gratitude poured toward Earth, from species who had knelt for generations and were standing tall for the first time. On the Indomitable, Admiral Chun watched the stars drift past as the human fleet prepared to return home. Do you think we did the right thing? Captain Rodriguez asked quietly, joining her at the observation window. Chun considered the question. We defended our species, she said, and we refused to become what threatened us. Rodriguez nodded. The galaxy's changing. Yes, Chun agreed. The age of empires is ending. Lieutenant Jackson approached with a final report. Admiral, the last Imperial vessel has exited human space. Earth Command sends their congratulations. Chun allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Record this in the ship's log, she said. The Zephyrian Empire made a critical error. They believed humanity was just another primitive species destined to kneel. She looked out into the vastness of space. They learned instead that humanity's greatest weapon is not our technology or our tactics. It's our refusal to accept that anything is impossible. The human fleet turned toward home. Behind them, an empire crumbled. Ahead of them, a galaxy learned what freedom looked like. And somewhere among the stars, countless species slept easier, knowing that if another empire ever rose to threaten them, humanity would be watching.